There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from all ages, thank you so much for joining me for this very special interview. I have the pleasure of talking to someone who just got recently famous for one of the most delicious elbows in sports entertainment after his very impressive debut on AEW Dark against Brian Cage. But, he's more than just a professional wrestler. I mean, he's a former U.S. veteran. So once again, thank you so much for your service. But also a competitive eater that had this tremendous outing in professional eating as well. But not only that, he makes some great content on his YouTube channel, which includes a very great cinematic wrestling match with Puff. And as well as a great review show for reviewing beverages and different types of other liquids as well when it comes to the beverage barons, along with Puff as well. So enough of the preliminaries, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Let me introduce you to the one and only Megabyte Ronnie. How are you?
I'm doing good. I don't think I could have done a better introduction myself, so I appreciate that. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm trying to do this interview without doing the glasses gimmick, but you know what? I'm going to try my best here. It's awesome to get to talk to you, especially even just a few days removed. We're filming this on a Thursday, and it's going to be released on a Friday. So we are just a couple days removed from your AEW Dark appearance. I think it's awesome that, the reception that you got after that match. It's simply amazing, especially with having the glizzy with you, as the kids would say it, especially during the match.
Yeah. I like to call myself the glizzy goat. I'll tell you this. I don't know. I think it's pretty common here. I don't think I'm giving away anything, but we tape that a couple days in advance before it airs on Tuesday night, and it's very petrifying. I absolutely hate watching my matches. So to have to wait 4 or 5 days to watch my match, and I only get to watch it when thousands of people get to watch it at the same time. I was not looking forward to watching that. I didn't know what the response would be, but it's been so positive, and I'm so happy about that.
Yeah, and you can definitely see the great reception that it had, especially with the commentary going crazy with one of Taz, Ricky Starks, Excalibur, and so on, going absolutely nuts when it came to the most delicious elbow in professional wrestling.
Yeah. I heard the commentary, and I think it's great for them to be so upset about it. I had some words with Taz later. He's not a fan, but you can't win them all.
Yeah, of course. So I always start these interviews off with a spitball or fireball question, which will the banner show right here. Always to get the mood going, especially for these interviews. So the first question I have to ask, especially for you, Ronnie, is, you've had stories, articles posted online talking about your story, talking about becoming a professional eater and then wanting to become a professional wrestler. Obviously, that dream was fulfilled. But can you talk about, what was it like being a professional eater, having that dream of becoming a professional wrestler?
Yeah, I think a lot of people get it twisted. I think a lot of people think that I'm a professional eater who happens to be a professional wrestler. And I'm here to set the record straight. I'm a professional wrestler who is also a professional eater. Basically, what happened is that while I was in the Army, I discovered the talent that I had, which was competitive eating. I did a challenge. I did a contest. I signed a contract with Major League Eating. Turns out I'm really good at it, one of the best in the world. Never would have known. I'm super competitive, so I fell in love with the sport very fast. I love competing. I love training and all that entails. And basically what happened is that I said when I got out of the Army, I was going to be a professional wrestler because I didn't think it was possible to do both Army and wrestling. It would have been impossible to travel. I could have got hurt. I needed to be ready for deployments and stuff like that. And then I got out of the Army, and honestly, I didn't do nothing. I went down kind of a bad path. I just sat around doing nothing. Basically, I was not ready as a human being to not have Big Brother there, the Army, to tell me what to do. And I pretty much just wasted 6 years of my life sitting around doing nothing. And then at 29, I was like, hey, I still have this dream, so what am I going to do about it? And I threw away everything I had and moved to Buffalo to start training, and here we are 2 years later. So
Yes, and as a fellow Buffalo representative, it's awesome to see Buffalo wrestling getting a good showcase, especially during a time when there's not any, but pretty much a majority of wrestling events being canceled or they're not being performed in front of crowds. So it's awesome to see yourself being represented by Buffalo. A lot of other AEW Dark talent as well, from the Butcher Andy Williams and the Blade Braxton Sutter. There's a lot. Yeah, I feel like that Buffalo wrestling has a really special place in not only in the hearts of yourself, but a lot of professional wrestling fans.
Yeah, I'll say to anybody, I think Buffalo is the best wrestling city in the world, and you cannot convince me otherwise. The amount of talent that we have here is very deep. The majority of the talent, I would say, are very good people. It's very rare that you can get a car of 5 guys who are completely different, who are all good individuals, all good human beings, that would show up to your show, put on a good show. All 5 people could do something different, and you don't have to worry about any of those 5 people, being jackasses. I don't know. It's impossible for me to think of another city that's so deep, and we have so many guys that don't get the recognition that they deserve. I mean, you could run a show with only Buffalo talent and blow the roof off, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Now, speaking about Megabyte Ronnie, I do want to talk about mentioned earlier, and that is during your time during the U.S. Army. And then so I want to kind of ask you, what was the inspiration for you to join the Army?
Well, it's kind of funny. I had graduated high school, at 18, and I had turned 19, and New Year's Eve ran around, and I was 19, and I was at a party, and I woke up New Year's Day, and I saw a bunch of beer bottles laying around, and saw some bags of things you probably shouldn't say on air laying around, and didn't recognize some of the people who were around me, and I said, what the hell am I doing with my life? February 24th, I shipped off for basic training. So I just needed to get away from my hometown. Like I said, I needed the Army. I needed Big Brother to teach me how to become a man, teach me how to become a responsible citizen and all that. And I knew I needed guidance. I knew I needed help. And I felt like the Army was the best choice for me. And it turns out it was.
Yeah, and it definitely helped shape to who you are today. And a lot of the passions that I feel like that came after the Army really showcase, and that what I'm talking about here is going to be your professional eating career. So what I thought was awesome was that just the number of professional eating competitions that you were a part of, and then the articles, like I mentioned before, are saying like, man, the times that this guy is doing is absolutely like mind blowing. It's unheard of. So can you talk about, because I know we mentioned about it a little bit before we had gone on the air, can you talk about like where that passion for professional eating came from?
It's kind of crazy because, I signed up for my first contest. My first contest was a Major League Eating contest. It was a Nathan's Hotdog qualifier. Most people know about the Nathan's Hotdog eating contest that's on ESPN on the 4th of July. To get there, you have to win a qualifier. They have a qualifier in about 12 to 15 different cities leading up to the 4th of July. Top man, top woman from each qualifier go on to the 4th of July, which is basically the Super Bowl of our sport. My first contest was a qualifier, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. There was the guy who actually won the contest had to convince me to dip the buns in water like before the contest, because I was like, ain't no way I'm dipping that bun in water. And he's like, no, you have to. And I'm like, And he convinced me to. But basically what happened is that I got this super big introduction with entrance music from an MC, and it felt so much like professional wrestling. And I walked out on this stage, and there's hundreds of people clapping for me, and it's the first time I ever felt that before. And it just felt so much like wrestling. I was addicted to competitive eating before I took my first bite. It was that introduction, that MC, that feeling, that electricity, and I just wanted more of that. And I ate 16 hot dogs that day, which was crazy because they were like, I thought I sucked, because the guy who won ate 30, and I'm like driving home, and I'm like, man, I suck at this. And then like next, I get home, and there's an email from Major League Eating. They want to sign me to a contract. There's other eaters messaging me like, where'd you come from? Like, how long have you been training? I'm like, training? I don't know anything about training. I'm just hungry.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I bet it was like akin to the candy store type of feel when you got that call from Major League Eating. I mean, there has to be some sort of that excitement, or at least that I made it to the big times when it comes to signing with Major League Eating.
Oh yeah, it felt good. They're an organization I didn't know about until I did that contest, really. But now that I've been signed with Major League Eating for so long, I absolutely am glad for that. I would never eat at a contest that's not sanctioned by Major League Eating, because they make sure paramedics are there. They make sure you're safe. They set you up perfectly. They know how to put on a show. They have the best platform. There's other eating contests out there. I mean, you can go to any festival or carnival or fair or whatever. You can find a mom and pop eating contest, but like I'm not going to do it because it's just too risky.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, whenever I see professional eating, there's sometimes where I'm like, man, like he's going like 60, 70 hot dogs right now, and he's fine. But then there's also the other end of the spectrum where you do see those who cannot withstand that much food, and then they do have to be taken to paramedics, or they just simply give up. So I think that professional eating is more than just professional eating. I think it's more of an art.
Yeah. I like that. I can get down with that.
Yeah, the art of just, consuming all the food in terms of competition. I mean, I would pay to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now, speaking about your time from professional eating, talking about your time there to then talking about your time as a professional wrestler, I do want to ask, because again, talking about the articles, talking about, you did an interview saying that, you were inspired to become a professional wrestler. And this was during the time before, I believe you were still doing the professional eating full time, and then transitioning into that professional wrestling field. Can you talk to us about what inspired you to become a professional wrestler?
It's wrestling's been my favorite thing since I was 4 years old. I mean, there's nothing else I ever envisioned myself doing. I'm now an IT support analyst. I'm now a professional competitive eater. I'm a U.S. Army veteran. I've taken some paths in my life, but I knew ultimately that it would take me to here. I didn't know it would take so long for me to get here. I had to, kind of fight some demons. I had to fight myself. I had to get over being my biggest critic. I had to get over my anxiety and stuff like that. I was so scared to fail at wrestling that I didn't allow myself to become a wrestler because I was so scared of failure. And it just took me so long, but there's absolutely nothing in this world I love. Well, besides my wife, there's absolutely nothing in this world I love more than professional wrestling. I don't want people to think that I'm just a competitive eater who's just here for some kicks and thrills and just here for a spotlight or a rub or anything like that. It's not like that. This is my number one passion. This is what I love to do. This is what I love to be a part of. This is what I love to watch. All that.
Yeah, we can definitely see that passion throughout your wrestling career. I mean, obviously, there's some wrestling promotions that like to be highlighted when it comes to the career of Megabyte Ronnie. Of course, Beyond Wrestling was part of that as well. So, I feel like that, when you talk about your passion for this business and talk about, having to want this ever since you were 4 years old, I mean, that resonates with me, because here I want the same thing the same career ever since I was 11 years old. So it's been 10 years wanting the same job for the rest of your life. So it's awesome to really meet someone that has that same passion for something that they want to do.
Oh yeah. I'm a full believer nowadays, that if you have a goal, if you have a dream, like just go for it. Cause like we get one shot at this run, right? Like we get one shot at life. Like if you don't just go for it, then like, man, you're probably going to get to your grave and you're going to regret it. And I just want to get to my grave and say, hey, anything out there that I wanted to do, I at least attempted.
Of course. And then speaking about your professional wrestling career, I do want to go and touch to your training. Of course, that was that transitional year. I believe it was 2018 or somewhere around that year where you made that transition from being, once again, just a competitive eater to that professional wrestling field. So can you talk to us about, what was it like during that training and that beginning process to your career?
I train at Grapplers Anonymous in Buffalo, New York. I trained mostly under Mikey every night and Brandon Thurston. Pepper Parks / The Blade was a trainer there when I had got into it, but he was holding advanced classes on Wednesday night, and I went to like 2 or 3 of his advanced classes before he didn't have time to do that anymore. So a lot of those guys like Garcia, Blackwood, Puff, you know, that they like to put out there, they're trained by Pepper Parks and / The Blade. And people have kind of told me to like say that, but I feel like I should give a lot of credit to Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics and Mikey Evernight at Grapplers Anonymous. Basically what happened is that I came to Buffalo on 2 occasions before I moved here. I came here for my best friend's wedding. My best friend from the Army was from Buffalo. He always tried to get me to come up here. And I came up here for his wedding, and I thought the place was pretty cool. And then I came back up here to compete in a wing eating contest called Wing Fest. And I was like, wow, this place is really cool. I looked up and saw that they had a wrestling training school, and I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know the people there, but I moved here to train there. So, like, I took a shot in the dark, and I got so lucky that Grapplers Anonymous is absolutely amazing. I can't say enough good things about Mikey every night and what he's doing there. The people that I train with are phenomenal. They feel like brothers and sisters to me, and it's just I got extremely lucky. You hear so many horror stories about other wrestling schools, and I have none of that. I've never felt hazed. I've never felt beat up. I've never felt anything like that, and I don't know. There's not enough time for me to say enough good things about that place.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, especially when you're talking about the advanced classes and talking about, you know, how much Braxton Sutter gave that knowledge to you. To me, it really feels like that Buffalo is more than just that small city in New York. It's more of a family, of that family that always supports you. And to, you know, when you think about, like you mentioned before, Buffalo wrestling, all the people that are coming from that area are killing it at their separate promotions. So it feels great to see that all come full circle, especially during a pandemic.
I mean, just look at the 4 guys that showed up to AEW. Myself, Daniel Garcia, Kevin Blackwood, Puff. None of us look anything like each other. None of us wrestle like each other. But we're complete brothers. I love all those guys. They all love me. And it's to be honest with you, being at AEW with those 3 guys was the most special moment of the whole weekend. So I had as much fun wrestling Brian Cage as I did watching Daniel Garcia and Kevin Blackwood have their match as well.
Of course. And now speaking about, like we mentioned before, about Buffalo and your training sessions, I do want to talk about the beginnings of your professional wrestling career. Talking about the origins of the most delicious elbow in professional wrestling. Can you talk to us about, you know, your first set of matches? I mean, I know it was a slow process, and you know it took time. You really have Megabyte Ronnie hit the waves in professional wrestling. So, can you talk to us about, you know, what it was like during that starting process?
It was honestly, it was extremely frustrating for me, and this is probably going to sound a little egotistical, but honestly, you got to believe in yourself or no one else will. Basically, since the day I stepped in the door at Grapplers Anonymous, everybody told me I was going to be a star, and I feel like I've done a lot of things. I train really hard. I do a lot to try and ensure that, but I had a very difficult time getting booked at first. I don't know what it is. I think maybe sometimes I rub people the wrong way because I don't go out with the boys after a show. I don't drink really. Maybe I have a Truly or something like that, like once a month, but I really don't drink. I'm kind of introverted. I like to stay home and play video games, and I have a wife, so there's nothing out there that I'm looking for. And I think people just kind of thought I was too big for this or some big shot or didn't want to, you know, like hang out with the boys or whatever. And I have no problem hanging out with the boys, and I like the boys. It's just like I don't want to go to the bar after the show. I don't want to get tanked or anything like that. And I did say I'm kind of stern. So, and sometimes I open my mouth when I shouldn't, and I will say things and I will stand up for things that I believe in. And it just kind of felt like the local area kind of just didn't want me there. And honestly, this could probably sound shitty, but like, I think a lot of people are just scared I'm going to take their spot, really. You know, like if you're somebody who's not putting in the work, you're not training, you're not going to the gym, and I show up at a show before you, and I'm setting up a ring before you show up, and I'm doing everything that a promoter asks for me, you've got to be scared to death that I'm going to take your spot. I mean, just look at me. I mean, just look at my story. Like, I'm coming for your spot. I made no doubt about that. So I just think I just wasn't winning the popularity contest. And I got so lucky that Beyond Wrestling saw past all that petty bullshit and brought me out there for my 15th and 16th match. And I really feel like since I've went out to Beyond, it's a whole different career now. A lot of things are opening up for me. But at the same time, I can't even get booked in the biggest promotion in my city. So, like, obviously I'm not rubbing elbows with some people correctly.
Yeah. But I mean, obviously, still Megabyte Ronnie is still making moves regardless.
Yeah.
And, that drive and that passion, like I mentioned before, is really reminiscent. It's really, striving with other people. And I feel like that's a great motive, especially going towards your wrestling career from now till the future.
Oh yeah. I mean, you can't keep me down. You can try, but like those same people who didn't want me to get booked in my city, now they're sitting at home watching me on TV. So joke's on them, right? Work harder. That's all I got to say.
As one, I believe it's the campaign movie said, haters are going to hate. But anyway, so speaking about
that too.
So speaking about Megabyte Ronnie, I do want to talk about the Megabyte nickname. Can you talk about what inspired you to have that nickname, or was it given to you?
So when I had signed up for my first eating contest, I was still deployed in Afghanistan. So like I'm deployed with like around 70 guys, right? We were a tight knit group, real small fob, not a lot of people there. And everybody was really stoked that I signed up for an eating contest. And I was like looking at it and I was like, man, all eaters have nicknames. Like I don't have a nickname. So I started asking people, and one of my platoon sergeants, Staff Sergeant Eagle, he came up with the nickname Megabyte because I did IT work in the Army. I still do IT work to this day. It just kind of made sense, And the big debate was, should I spell it with a Y or an I, kind of play on the words. But I like spelling it with a Y just to kind of give a nudge to my IT background. But at first I was just Ronnie Megabyte Hartman. Like it was just, a nickname. And I don't know where Megabyte started being in front of Ronnie. I don't know who said it first. I don't know where it came from, but it just kind of stuck. And now I'm just Megabyte Ronnie. And I don't know, like it's just, I like it. It rolls off the tongue real good. People seem to like it. And, I don't know. It's just one of those things. Fate put it together, I guess.
Yeah, Fate did put it together, especially not only for the professional wrestling scene, but before you made your AEW Dark debut, you also made an appearance on one famous show, which happens to be the Hot Ones game show. Yeah. And so I do want to ask, because I do believe, to my knowledge, that the Megabyte name was used in the show. So can you talk about with us, of course, Sean Evans, for those who don't know, is the host of Hot Ones. He had a YouTube show called Hot Ones, which turned into a game show. And this in particular appearance was absolutely phenomenal. So can you talk to us about what it was like being on that game show?
Well, first, I did the Hot Ones game show on TV with my wife. That came about, somebody just messaged me on Instagram and was like, hey, have you seen Hot Ones? I'm like, of course I've seen Hot Ones. Who hasn't seen Hot Ones? And they're like, well, Hot Ones is starting a game show. Do you want to come try out for it? So I had to drive down to New York City and eat a bunch of hot sauce and burn my mouth all up and, burn up other parts of my body. And I got on that show and I did it with my wife, and we didn't win that much money. I think we won like $100 or $400, something like that. We didn't do that well. And, I thought that was done. And then Hot Ones just messages me one day earlier this year, and they're like, hey, we're going to do a redemption series. We want you to come on, but you're going to have a celebrity partner. And I was like, hey guys, I really don't know anything about pop culture. Like I don't watch movies. I don't watch a lot of TV shows. Like I've seen like 2 Marvel movies. Like I don't know actors' names. I was like, you either got to get me something involved with gaming, or you got to get me something involved with wrestling. They asked me if I had seen what's the name of that sketch, that comedy show on True TV? It's like 4 guys. They do like
Practical Jokers.
Impractical Jokers. They were like, "Do you know Impractical Jokers?" So I was like, "No, but I'll go watch it." Like, so I'm like 2 or 3 days before I'm filming, I'm watching all these Impractical Jokers episodes, just trying to get to know the guys. And so I get to do Hot Ones, and I'm sitting there waiting to find out who my guest partner is going to be, expecting a Practical Joker, and then Cody Rhodes shows up, and I'm literally freaking out, like in my chair, at the fact that I get to do Hot Ones with Cody Rhodes, and we won $400 there. Cody was a sport. He took a shot of hot sauce when he didn't have to. They told him that he didn't have to, but he said he wasn't going to leave me hanging. After it was done recording, he did say he regretted that, but like I appreciate him doing that shot with me. Yeah, that was great. I guess I got lucky because Cody said during the show, he was like, "Man, you're in pretty good shape," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'll work out and stuff like that." And he didn't really ask a lot about my wrestling and stuff like that. He just told me at the end of the show that he was going to bring me down to Jacksonville one day for a taping. Never said I was going to wrestle or anything like that. I kind of just took that as like, oh, we're going to bring you down and let you be backstage and hang out with the guys and stuff like that. And, I'm so thankful to Sean Evans. I would not have been on AEW Dark, I don't think, without him giving me that redemption shot. So he set everything up, and I guess I got lucky by telling those guys I don't know anything about pop culture. All I know is wrestling, so they set me up with a wrestler. So,
yeah, everything comes within good time. Just like how the this whole COVID situation, something better will come within time. Same thing with your career. Goes from Hot Ones with Cody Rhodes all the way to AEW Dark. And speaking about AEW Dark, I do want to talk about your AEW Dark appearance. And your match against Brian Cage. Now, I'm assuming when you heard the announcement that you were facing off against Brian Cage, I'm assuming, were you up and at him, or was it more, the Machine, cool?
Yeah. Real quick before we step into that, I definitely have to shout out Beyond Wrestling, Drew Cordero. Without him giving me a shot in my 15th and 16th match, I don't think anything happened. So Hot Ones and Beyond Wrestling are definitely the 2 things that got me here. As far as when I found out I was wrestling Brian Cage, so I was standing next to Vicky Guerrero actually, and I'm looking at the card and I see my name next to Brian Cage, and I go, "Oh man, I got a match!" And Vicky goes, "With who?" And I was like, "With Brian Cage," and she goes, "Oh, I'm sorry." And I was like, what do you mean you're sorry? Like. So I was definitely stoked. I'm a big Brian Cage fan. I like seeing a big man who can do athletic things. He's not just limited to just being a big monster guy. He can go in there. So I was very excited. I know he's been wrestling for a while, so I felt like I was getting in there with a veteran. I didn't have to worry about anything like that, and it was just I don't know. It's actually the first time, maybe the first time in any of my matches that I wasn't the biggest guy. I am legit 6'2", 230 pounds. Like that's not a work. That's a shoot. Like I'm a big guy, and I've never got in a ring with someone who just is bigger than me. So that was a new experience as well.
Yeah. And once again, when I heard the announcement that Megabyte Ronnie versus Brian Cage, I was like, okay, like I'm ready for this. Let's go. Because of course I'm a huge fan of Brian Cage as well. But then once the Titantron had set, and I was like, man, there's a lot of glizzies on that on that Titantron. And then all of a sudden, you pull out the world famous Hotdog, does the most delicious elbow, and I was like, okay, I have to get a conversation with Ronnie. And that, just that performance on its own, I think you really opened up a lot of eyes to not just the East Coast wrestling scene, but I think around the world as well.
Yeah, I'll tell you this, and I think I said it on Twitter. You don't know how many shots you get at things like this in life, right? Like you can maybe count on one hand how many times you get a shot at something like this. So I knew I had to do something memorable. I knew I had to make a mark. So I did hit my finishing move, the Cyclone, and instead of going for the pin like a smart guy, I crawled over to the fanny pack and got a hot dog out and delivered the people's hot dog. And I think that was the right call, because here we are, a week later, and we're a couple days later, and we're talking, and social media seems to like it, the internet seems to like it. I don't know what else to really say. Like, that match couldn't have went any better for me. I was brought in as a talent, as an enhancement talent to Brian Cage, and I don't know. I don't want to toot my own horns too much, but I can't think of too many people who have taken that opportunity from Dark and done as much with it as I have.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
I like I said, I just when I got that call and I knew I had a match, I just knew I had to make the most of it, and I hope I did.
Yeah, there's this old famous saying that you only have 5 seconds of fame. Make sure you use it wisely. I mean,
ain't that the truth?
Yeah, and you killed it, my friend. You absolutely killed that little time that you had on AEW Dark.
Thank you.
Course. And now, speaking for those who are watching right now, if you don't know where to find Ronnie, you can find him on Instagram, you can find him on Twitter. Links will be down in the description below, but also you can find him on his own YouTube channel, which happens to be youtube.com/Megabyte Ronnie. And I want to touch on the Megabyte before we have to go. I do want to talk about the YouTube channel. And now the YouTube channel, I feel like, is a great showcase of not just your professional wrestling, but also some pretty badass shows. And I'm talking about the one show in particular, and that's Beverage Barons. That's alongside with Puff. We try out different beverages. It's actually funny. I was actually on Puff's Instagram Live recently by the time of this recording, and I had typed in, oh my goodness, it's not Beer Buddies, it's Burp Homies. Yeah. And I accidentally said Beer Homies by accident. Like, we don't try beer. Yeah. So can you talk to us about what was the idea behind creating Beverage Barons?
Man, Puff's my homie. So, like, me and Puff, we hang out probably 2 or 3 times a week. And we, if you look through our text messages, it's always about soda or food. We literally talk about soda and food all the time. And we were just spitballing ideas for after we did our cinematic match. We wanted to do something that we could continue to do on a weekly basis. And I don't know who came up with the idea between me and Puff, but we definitely were like, oh yeah, this is what we're meant to do. We're meant to review soda because we absolutely love diet soda, and it's just been a lot of fun. I joke around about the Burp Homies because back when I had like 300 subscribers, I think 250 of them were just there because they had burp fetishes. So, like, I always like to give those guys credit because, I mean, maybe without them, I wouldn't be at the amount of subscribers I have now. So, like, I mean, I don't judge anybody. If you like what you like, then hell, like it. I don't care. So I always shout out those guys when we give out a big belch. And I don't know. I'm for everybody. So if you're a burp homie, I appreciate you stopping by.
Yeah, that's one of the most iconic lines in not only just the YouTube world, but probably in social media in general. And of course, speaking about your cinematic match, I mean, that I watched that back, I think, just an hour before this interview had aired.
Yeah,
it's truly one of the most masterpieces in cinematic matches history. I mean, the way that you and Puff go at it, and especially just the multiple events that have happened during the match. I mean, was it something that was kind of, we have to create something special, or was it like, hey, we're just going to do something on the spot?
I don't think anybody during the COVID situation has worked harder to improve their brand than me and Puff. We are all the time putting out video promos on Twitter. We did that cinematic match. We came up with Beverage Barons. Like, we were completely working it, and we were just sitting around. And the idea kind of just sparked off itself because it was the first 4th of July in a long time that I wasn't going to be doing the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. And it was like, well, you want to hang out? And it's like, yeah, I want to hang out. We have some Nathans. And he's like, no, we'll have some Salem's. And it just was like, it just spun out of control. If there's one thing you could do to help me out, it's just go watch that cinematic match, because I honestly feel that it's one of the best cinematic matches ever made. I have never been prouder of anything I've ever created or helped create than that cinematic match. It doesn't have as many views as I think it really deserves. And that's not even we don't even get any money or anything off the views because we use the Katy Perry song in there. So like I'm not gaining anything from you going to watch that. I just think that if you go and watch it, you'll enjoy it. I know people who don't know anything about wrestling that I've shown that to, and they love it. So if you're out there listening and you want to do me one favor, just go to my channel and watch the cinematic match with Puff, and hopefully you like it. I think you will.
Yeah, a definite masterpiece as well. So once again, Ronnie, I do want to thank you so much for being a part of this interview. But finally, I do want to do my final bit, which I always do for these interviews. 3 fun questions. This is the part of the interview where I like to sit back, relax, and try to get some fun questions out of the interviewee. So the first question out of the 3 is favorite beverage.
Oh, that's rough. So I'm actually drinking it right now. It's a Walmart brand. It's called Clear American, strawberry flavor. It's new. I don't know when Walmart started having these Clear American drinks, but they're like $1.99 for a 12-pack. They have like 5 or 6 flavors that are all super delicious. 0 calories, 0 sugar, 0 caffeine. And this strawberry one is absolutely delicious. We haven't reviewed it on the show because we're saving it for a special episode. But Clear American strawberry.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, last time I had a beverage as that sort, I think the last one I ever had was A&W's Diet Root Beer, and that was the closest I've ever had besides my typical Diet Coke.
Yeah, we'll get to A&W. We got some root beers going on. We just absolutely slandered a root beer on the show, so we got to get a good one.
All right, the second question is, out of all of the eating competitions that you have participated in your eating career, what was the hardest eating competition?
Probably hard-boiled eggs. I did a hard-boiled egg eating contest in Kentucky, and like during a thunderstorm. Like it was absolutely a downpour. It was supposed to be like a town festival. There was like 3 people watching us. We're eating hard-boiled eggs. It was disgusting. I love hard-boiled eggs going into that contest, and I didn't eat another one for like 4 years after that. Like I ate something like 68 hard-boiled eggs, I think, and after about 20 hard-boiled eggs, they started tasting like metal for some reason. It was just it was terrible, absolute nightmare. I finished right outside the money, so I didn't even win any money, and then I had to drive 16 hours back to Georgia right after the contest. It was absolutely a horrible decision by me.
And then finally, the most popular question, I think, not just in professional wrestling, but just in life in general. Do you like pineapples on your pizza?
No. Here's the thing. I will eat it. Like if it's around and like that's what's for dinner, cool. But I'll never order it.
I know a lot of people when I ask this question, they're like, "Oh, I don't mind it. Oh, it's okay." I mean, personally, I'm a huge pineapple fan and I'm a huge pizza fan. So those two mix perfectly. But when I talk to other people and they're like, "No," I'm like, "Why?"
Some people are very passionate about the no too. Like I don't think it's like disgusting. I don't think it's like vomit worthy. I don't particularly like it, but if I'm hungry and it's there, I'll eat it. No big deal.
Yeah, of course. Well, once again, that was all my questions, Ronnie. Thank you so much for being a part of this interview. For those who don't know, once again, I will plug the YouTube channel, which you could definitely find Ronnie and his amazing content. Link will be down there. I will also put down the link to the very entertaining, very great match that he had with Brian Cage as well. So you guys know the matches that we were talking about, as well as the cinematic match. I mean, 2 absolute masterpieces, to say the least. So make sure you guys go check that out as well. Once again, Ronnie, thank you so much. And make sure to follow him on all social media platforms besides just YouTube. Of course, link will be down below. I'm plugging like a plugger should be. And of course, I will see you guys again in the next interview. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys again soon. And